Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking movies, TV, comics, and more. Join in the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. You follow him on Twitter. You should. His name is Padawan J.
This is the way.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more, so definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our accounts and so much more at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPH. Was there going to be any other story we were going to kick off this episode with than recapping the greatness that is The Mandalorian?
I mean, barring something absolutely batshit crazy getting announced or, like, revealed, no.
No, this was locked and loaded. We have had this date circled on the calendar for so long. It has finally arrived, and it was glorious.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be talking spoilers of the season premiere of The Mandalorian. So if you have not watched for whatever reason, I'm not judging you.
I am.
Your life happens right now, so I'm saying I'm going to give the excuse this week. Next week, no. But if you haven't seen it yet, pause right now, because we are going to deep dive into spoilers. This is what has been feared that was going to happen the day of on Twitter at OD Parlay Hour. No, I held it for this week. So
you held it better than some other sites, I will say that.
I did, because everybody knows, whether it's Dre, East Coast Avengers, Cheers to Comics, everybody has been waiting about this.
Yeah.
I am going to go into full spoiler land.
Yeah.
In 3, 2, 1.
Cover your ears.
He's back! He's back!
Somehow.
Let's go.
Somehow. They still got to explain that.
Oh, my freaking God. I'm sorry if I just made your eardrums pop, but the man, the myth, the fucking legend, Boba Fett is back.
Somehow,
some way, the egregious way that he was taken off the board in Return of the Jedi was wiped away. No, he didn't fall in the Sarlacc pit. He is not dead. Far from it.
Well, I mean, he could be a clone.
No. That's the real fucking deal. That's the baddest bounty hunter in all the galaxy came back.
It could be Boba Fett, but cloning is a thing. We don't know. All we know is that it is that is the appearance of Boba Fett. We have seen his armor. How he got there, whether it's, we go the old canon route, and then I believe it was he detonated something in the Sarlacc and it spit him out or something. I forget the specifics. Or they've come up with something new, or because let's remember, cloning is a thing. You look at the prequels, then you look at what Palpatine did for Rise of Skywalker. Cloning is a thing, so maybe somebody cloned him. Who knows?
We're going to find out.
Yes.
But all I know is the man, the myth, the legend has returned. Mm-hmm. For anybody that said, no, he got punked out, he's a weak character. No, go away. I don't want to hear this nonsense.
All right, see you later.
Get out of here. No, the man, the myth, the legend is back. But we have to explain how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a great episode. So, Pat, let me start it off how we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I thought it was a great episode. I was very surprised when because the entire first season I would watch right before I got up and got to work. They were about a half hour. I think season 1, the longest episode was 40 minutes or 44 minutes, something. So I got up, Friday morning last week before work, figuring, all right, make my breakfast and have my watch Mandalorian while I'm eating my breakfast, and then as soon as that episode's done, start making my lunch for work and get ready for work. Hopped on to Disney Plus on my television, and went, oh shit, this episode's 52 minutes. Let's go.
I had no issue with that. I waited till Friday night to watch it because obviously October 30th is when it dropped, and I wanted to wait because I knew if I got up and something big happened, I was going to be a wild person when I was out in public, and I didn't want to do that.
And I will say, genuinely, you held in the secret better than a lot of sites. There was one site, I'm not going to say which because I don't remember who it was, that given the end when Boba Fett appears, had his name in the title of the article. Not even 6 hours after I watched it.
Yeah, which, come on. I mean, we knew that he was going to be returning at some point.
Right.
Like, that was no surprise. But how it was revealed in this episode was a big-ass surprise. Mm-hmm. It was the mic drop moment that I wanted to see.
It was a cliffhanger, too, because they get to the end of the episode, and, the Mandalorian's heading back into town so we can go back to his ship, and they're doing, like, the old movie style, they're bringing in the black bars, like you're getting ready for the credits, and then, nope. Just kidding.
Yes.
They pulled an NXT on us.
They did, and it was so fucking good. I seriously lost my crap. I'm not even going to front about it. I was wiling out.
I didn't absolutely lose my shit. I just kind of sat there, and my jaw was open a little bit, and I just said, well, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I was like, he's back, and I would like immediately start going through the Rolodex, like, okay, who am I going to call? Because I hear a lot of flack for my defense of Boba Fett, because I am a very big Boba Fett fan.
As is everyone, of a certain age and generation, because he was the biggest, baddest thing in the world.
Yes. I actually had a ceramic mask made.
I believe it.
In high school.
I believe it.
In fact, I had two of them, but one unfortunately got washed away in a flood. The second one I actually sold. And I am that big of a mark for him. So when this happened, I was like, okay, let's go. But the story of how we got here, I know we got a little sidetracked, but I got so amped up about this. I almost said, like, the whole episode could have just been that 5 minutes at the end, and I'm like, I'm good. But this one really delivered on all fronts.
Yeah.
Because we kick off with the Mandalorian, the one and only Pedro Pascal, is now on the mission to reunite Baby Yoda, a.k.a. the child, with fellow members of his species.
Yeah, and it doesn't appear that anybody tasked him to do this. It's just his conscience.
Well, you're seeing the growing evolution of a character, because the Mandalorians we've known have not really shown this much emotion.
No.
And it's so weird because you never see his face, obviously. You're just getting his body language.
Yeah.
And like I say, this is just a feather in the cap of how Pedro Pascal is playing this character. Yeah. Because you're just seeing that he wants to do something good here. He knows that he's basically become the galaxy's most wanted, but he still doesn't care because he knows in his heart he's doing what's right, which is so weird to see, but it's so refreshing.
It's one of the few times we've seen a Mandalorian do the right thing, because you think, okay, Boba Fett did whatever he did for the money.
Yes.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No matter what his morals, if he had any, might have been, did it. You think to back to the Clone Wars when you had, I forget the character's name, but he was the head of Death Watch. Skewed on the evil side of the spectrum, but definitely was more motivated, was more evil, and more boisterous. And then you had some of the other folks they were kind of split off from that Death Watch, and they were very passionate, but they did it for, hey, this isn't who we are, this isn't our people. And then you flash forward to Star Wars Rebels with Sabine Wren, who was very colorful, explosives expert, but like to put some flair and some color in her explosions. So no, Pedro Pascal's very much it's hard to gauge him sometimes, because at the start of the show, he's like, give me the money, I'm doing the job. Like at one point, Carl Weathers tells him, oh, why don't you take some time off, go to a planet, hang out for a week. He goes, nah, give me the job. To now he's doing something out of the kindness of his own heart.
Yeah, he's just having a change of conscience.
Yeah.
Which does add a little more dimension to the character. And I think that's what you need, obviously, because with Star Wars, you know what the mythos is, so you definitely want to add something new to it. Obviously, this show has a lot riding on it. It delivered on Season 1, so starting off Season 2, you want to see the same vein.
Yep.
It does follow in a lot, though, of what Season 1 was great for, because when the Mandalorian is on his search to track down other Mandalorians for help, which I thought was a very unique take they're doing for this season. He does approach a criminal boss, Gor Koresh, who is voiced by the one and only John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
And this all kind of goes sideways very quickly because being the Mandalorian is the most wanted, Koresh is now thinking, I can make some money if I bring him in for his armor.
Right, and if you also remember back to last season, the cantina where, the bounty hunters guild that was on the main planet that they kept going to. At one point, Pedro Pascal asks Carl Weathers, how many people in here had fobs or tracking devices? And he goes, all of them, but you were the only one to succeed and bring it in. So there were maybe roughly about 100 people in that bar, give or take. 100 people tell everyone they know, so let's just conservatively say 5 people. 100 people tell 5 people each. You do the math. Word travels. So the instant, and let's be honest, he's not being secretive or kind of like guarded with the child. He's just kind of like, he's in his carriage, it's open, it's floating along, and he don't care who sees.
Yeah, which is, how badass is that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to do it. You're the most wanted person in the galaxy. And you're just like, I don't give a shit. Come get me.
Yeah.
And he does have this great standoff, which we have seen in the trailers numerous times, that when he's surrounded, everybody draws the guns because they want his armor. Baby Yoda puts up the protective shield.
Nope.
Stuff goes off. The room is left laying. Great action sequences. Mandalorian kills everybody there.
Yep.
And he gets Koresh, who's trying to run away.
Yep.
Gets him by the ankles, ties him up.
Yep.
So he's hanging a la Batman style.
I had the same thought.
Yes.
I was waiting for him to drop him a few times before he got something out of him.
I was waiting too. It was just so reminiscent of what you see with Batman when he has a criminal tied up by his ankles.
Especially the Christian Bale movies.
Yes. I was waiting for, where is he?
Oh, my God.
But you saw he was just getting more information about where a Mandalorian was. And then Koresh did give him a name, or a name of a planet.
Yep.
And this one sent shockwaves through the Star Wars universe, I would say.
Yeah.
And what was that planet?
Tatooine.
Dun, dun, dun. So now the Mandalorian and Child are now on their way to Tatooine. And they meet up with an old friend, the mechanic, Peli Mato, who does tell them about a location where we think the other Mandalorian might be. So it is on Tatooine. It's Mos Pelgo.
Yep.
So the Mandalorian does show up there and has a run-in with somebody wearing a very familiar armor, but is not who we think it is. No. Pad, do you know who this is?
So the gentleman in question was a gentleman by the name of Cobb Vanth, Vanth, played by the one and only Timothy, how do you say this? Oliphant?
Yes.
So that was, and I didn't remember the name, but I'm like, this guy looks familiar.
He's been in amazing things. Justified just rings out right now. Just the short version.
Yep.
But he has been in so many different shows, and he always crushes it, man. So to get him on this was a big, big move for them, and he definitely delivered in this role.
Yep. No, absolutely.
So then as he's going through, and we're getting a little background story of like, well, you're not a Mandalorian, but we're getting some story about, well, this armor does belong to a legend, one Boba Fett.
Yep.
And then when you see that Vanth removes his helmet, and we start getting the story of like, well, he did get this when the armor was done for scraps.
Yep.
And they kind of have like a little standoff where you think, okay, we're going to have a little showdown.
Yeah.
But then we have a dragon come through town that basically interrupts that.
Yep.
And Vanth says, I need help. If you can help me get rid of this dragon, I'll give you the armor. Yeah,
because I think Vanth is no idiot. He realizes that he is hilariously outgunned and outmatched by Pedro Pascal. So he realizes, all right, if I try and, because the Mandalorian tradition, you fight him, and if you beat him, you get his armor.
Yep.
This is David versus Goliath, and I ain't got no slingshot. He realized that I gotta do this. And the thing I really liked was they made the backstory of how he got the armor believable. They could have just very easily, I found it someplace, but no, he was out in the desert. He had this whole ordeal where he was out in the desert and struggling, and came upon by the Jawas and their sandcrawler, and they took him in, and then they realized what he had, and they were trying to get buy it off of him, and they were offering everything, and then he looked in the corner and saw the armor because it had been salvaged in the desert, which I'm like, okay, that lines up. Jawas are the type of creatures that, you've heard the saying, if it's not nailed down to the floor, they're going to take it.
Yes.
And you think back to Return of the Jedi, and, when Luke and Han and Leia blow up Jabba's sail barge, and when Boba Fett was there. So given how, and we saw Boba go into the Sarlacc, and so I obviously he got out some way with his armor intact. So, but why he doesn't have it is, again, up to question.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery, which we'll hopefully find out this season.
Yeah, we will.
Because they did kind of tease a little bit about what happened at the for Fallout from Return of the Jedi. Because they did say about the mining collective that invaded Mos Pelgo. Yeah. Because after the destruction of the second Death Star.
Yeah, probably like the same night, because that's the way it appeared. Because they were talking about how the Empire blew up, and if you've seen the more recent, renditions of Return of the Jedi, I guess you could say, you've seen that shot where it's Mos Eisley, everyone's celebrating and partying. they show, the holodeck table in the center, and it's a, projection of the second Death Star blowing up, and everyone's cheering, yay, hooray. So literally 5 minutes later, this, or probably the next night or something like that, this mining collective comes in and goes, yeah, Empire's not here, so we're going to run things.
Yeah, so it's kind of a nice little play on keeping everything lined up, because we are 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
So to have those ramifications still involved, I think is a great move, and obviously it gives you an idea where you are in timeline-wise.
Yeah.
Because they haven't really touched upon that too much.
I don't think they've said it, other than kind of hinting that the war is over and, the Empire's not really around anymore.
Right.
Unless you've read interviews and read, some stuff online, you really wouldn't know that.
No, you definitely wouldn't. So this was a nice little Easter egg, so to speak, that you have an idea, okay, what's going on, and to give you a time frame of what has transpired. So as the duo is now moving forward to go hunt this dragon, they run into some Tusken Raiders.
Yep.
And they have an alliance to try taking out the dragon, and it doesn't really work out the first time, and actually some Tuskens get taken out.
Yeah.
Which they realize, okay, we need more people. So the Mandalorian does convince the sheriff, Vanth, to go into town and recruit the townspeople.
Reluctantly.
Yeah, which definitely...
I feel like it was one of those moments where, like, he made the agreement and was like, oh, yeah, no, my buddy here will get his entire town to help us out.
Yes.
Will that work? Oh, yeah, sure. No, that'll work. And he's saying all this in Tusken Raider speak. And then, Vanth goes, what did you tell him? Oh, I said your town was going to help us. Like, there's no negotiating. I already told them they'd agreed to it, so we got to do this.
Yeah, it's a nice little funny moment. And obviously you see the town folk are trying to get talked into this.
And I love the way he presented it, too, where he's like, hey, this guy's going to help us out. And he, we've been dealing with this great dragon for a long time, and it's really causing issues for us. We got to take care of something because, it's 5 seconds away from, wanting to eat all of us. So he's going to help us out. All right. Yeah. Awesome. One hitch with it, though. We got to help him out. And, okay, sure. And the Tusken Raiders are going to help us. What?
Yeah.
No.
It was a perfect moment, for the show. It's the cool, dramatic moments with a little comedy thrown in that doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
Perfect moment, but obviously they get everybody involved. And the deal is, okay, if we help the Tuskens out here, they won't attack our town ever again. So the deal is worked. So everybody's got some deals happening. Like a lot of wheeling and dealing in this episode. But this goes back to the whole Western feel of this, the space Western.
Yeah.
And as the group does make its attempt to go get the dragon out of its cave, things go sideways very quick.
Yeah.
That obviously they try getting some harpoons and restraining it.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, which is like, okay, who really thought this was going to work?
It reminded me of the 97 Godzilla movie where you had the Taco Bell commercials.
Oh.
You had the Taco Bell commercials, and he's trying to hunt down the Godzilla with the box, and he's like, oh, I think I'm going to need a bigger box.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, where I'm like, oh, you are so not prepared for this.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a perfect analogy. And now I just have to think back to that movie. 3, 2, 1, back. So that all being said, the plan is going sideways, and actually the dragon is having some very unique special effects moments because he's spewing venom, which is sulfuric at this point. So he's actually melting townsfolk and the Raiders too. So things are definitely not working in its favor.
And it's funny, or not even funny. It's weird just because of one of the things that he kind of tells Vanth is like, oh, hey, we have to trust the Tusken Raiders on this. They've studied, these creatures for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Like, they know everything about it, and yet you're hilariously outmatched by this. Like, if your society and your heritage is like studying great dragons and hunting great dragons and doing this, like, why are you not more prepared?
Yeah, that was something I was just going with the episode. Like, I was but I thought the same thing. Like, isn't that the first time you've dealt with this?
Yeah.
It's not like a new character, because apparently this dragon has been haunting the town for how long now?
Yeah, Lord, a long time.
But one area that happens is that they have a bantha that has all these explosives tied to it, which was basically going to be the end all be all, because the Mandalorian tries sacrificing himself to save this town, which I was surprised at. I really was. Not that he wasn't trying to be noble, but the fact that he was so willing to part with Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
into Vance's custody.
I think he was just flying by the seat of his pants and making it up as he went.
Yeah, which I thought was so out of character for where we see him, per se.
Sure.
Because obviously his whole mission now is to defend the kid.
Mm-hmm.
But to willingly say, you take care of him, you watch him now.
Yeah.
And try to sacrifice himself. I mean, a noble gesture.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah.
just didn't seem like a real rational move and something we would expect from the character.
Yeah, it's like come up with a plan, write the plan down, throw the plan away.
Yeah, so it definitely fit along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mandalorian does get swallowed by the dragon.
Oh, so he goes full Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black 1.
Yeah, which is absolutely wild.
Uh-huh.
He escapes the dragon, though, and sets the explosives off.
I had a feeling, I was like, are we about to do Tommy Lee Jones here? And yep, we are.
Oh, we went fully Tommy Lee Jones. There was no question of this.
He just didn't need his gun back.
No. And thus, the day is saved.
Mm-hmm.
The dragon is blown to smithereens.
Yep.
The Tuskens take the husk, and they find a pearl, which I think we're going to find out a little bit more down the road.
I don't think so. I think it's just an Easter egg thing because at least in old canon, it's kind of viewed. It's very valuable. Obviously, it's very hard to come by. But then it's kind of like a religious, very means a lot to the Tusken Raider type people. I hadn't fully read it yet. I quickly skimmed over an article the other day though. I guess it's could have something to do with like kyber crystals,
okay,
or something like that. So I got to dig into that a little bit more. Yeah. I maybe we'll see something with it later. Who knows?
Yeah, there's just so much that left up in the air with that. Like I figured it was an Easter egg for something, but
maybe.
I didn't know. No pun intended. And the deal is made. Vanth gives the armor back to the Mandalorian, and they part. So I think we're going to see him down the road of the series. I don't think it was one and done for Cobb Vanth.
No.
Which I'm okay with.
Especially with the line of, I hope we cross paths again. And I'm like, all right, you're setting that up, that return.
Yeah, it's definitely set up.
Yeah.
So the Mandalorian takes off with the armor, and then in the distance, just watching.
Looking pissed as all hell.
Looking pissed and looking like he went through something.
Yeah.
He looked very weathered and very scarred up.
Woof.
The man, the myth, the legend, Boba Fett.
Tamora Morrison, who of course played Jango Fett in the prequels and also played all of the clones in Episode 3.
Yeah.
Well, there is one Easter egg you didn't mention, though, and you might not have picked up on it.
Okay, break it down.
So when the Vanth and the Mandalorian are traveling along, of course, the Mandalorian has his like kind of traditional looking speeder bike thing. But folks might have noticed, and there's nothing officially confirmed about this. This is just kind of the way people are speculating. But Vanth's speeder looked a little goddamn familiar. And it looked like one of the engines from Anakin's Pod Racer in Episode 1.
Okay.
A little different paint scheme. That pod was sold, as we know, and as Qui-Gon Jinn mentions in Episode 1. So it's entirely possible that that's the only remaining piece, because that was, to this point, that is the only style of Pod Racer that we've seen like that. So it is entirely possible that part of Anakin Skywalker's Pod Racer is flying around or, driving around on Tatooine as a speeder bike.
That is an interesting theory.
It's not been confirmed, but that's the way a lot of folks online are leaning.
I usually try forgetting most things from the Phantom Menace.
When I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, that looks like Anakin's pod.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and I was racking my brain. I'm like, okay, that's the only instance we've ever seen a pod racer or anything shaped like that. So it could be.
It definitely could be. I mean, like I say, I didn't pick up on that, but then again, I try forgetting a lot of the Phantom Menace because I really do not like episodes 1 and 2. Or
Duel of Fates is good though.
Yeah, the Fates has its moments. I will give you that. And then Revenge of the Sith was okay.
Yes.
Like I don't mind that. But if we talk about the other two movies, I try blocking a lot of that out. But Pad, overall final thoughts on this episode?
Incredible episode. Perfect way to come back and kind of get things going again. Cannot wait to go with where they go in the next episode, which is titled The Confrontation. This one, we should note, written, directed, and produced by Jon Favreau.
Okay, so let's go. For me, this was perfect. This was a standard Mandalorian episode, and that is not a knock by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
It was about as damn near perfect of a premiere as you're going to get. And then we get Boba Fett back.
Yeah.
That was enough for me. Like, he could have just came by in the first 5 minutes of the episode. I would have said it was great. A 5-star episode. I would have given you that. But now we actually are going to get some backstory about how they're going to retcon the egregiousness that is Return of the Jedi. Yeah, because I'm getting so wound up because I'm so happy to see Boba back. And I don't even know what's going to happen here. I mean, will he go after the sheriff? That is what I'm thinking is going to happen because now that he sees his armor. Or is he going to take off and try chasing the Mandalorian? So many plot holes that we don't know yet, but going into episode 2, and it's rumored that this is where we're going to see Sasha Banks involved as well, too. Maybe. So much good to see from the Mandalorian. They came back very strong. You need to go watch the episode if you haven't. And if you have, let us have that official spoiler chat on social media, shall we? Hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts on the Mandalorian premiere for Season 2? Let us talk. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Tom Schuster from the Game Vault Podcast, and I'm here to talk to you about Extra Life. On Saturday, November 7th, we'll be participating in Extra Life Day, a worldwide 24-hour game marathon initiative helping to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. Starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be playing video games for 24 hours straight, and you can watch us stream it live on twitch.tv/GameVaultPod. We'll be playing retro games, new classics, party games, and even more. Come join the fun and help us make this the best Extra Life yet. Want to help even more? Drop a donation on our donation page at tinyurl.com/extralife5. Every little bit helps, and all proceeds benefit the Children's Miracle Network. The donation page stays up until midnight on December 31st, so even if you can't join us live, you can donate anytime you want. Once again, Saturday, November 7th, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/GameVaultPod and tinyurl.com/extralife5 for the donations. Thank you.
2, 3, 4! Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and let us talk some more Fear the Walking Dead. Never thought I'd be doing this, but I am seriously sold on how this season has been. It's done anthology style. I'm getting more familiar with some of the characters that I kind of fell off on because, as we've talked on previous episodes, this show has been very, I don't want to say polarizing, but very, very streaky.
Up and down.
Yes. That, okay, either it really hits its stride or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And since it came back this season, the episode started very strong with the premiere. Going into the following episodes, they've definitely not let down.
No.
They are jumping around a little bit. So I will say that might be something I'm not in love with, so to speak, with certain plots as I'm going to get into. Because I do want to talk spoilers about episode 4, The Key. So we are going to start jumping into that in 3, 2, 1. So this one takes off where John, who is played by Garrett Dillahunt, is in Virginia's Commonwealth and is in like a sheriff capacity. And this is kind of like what he plays in here because he's obviously a noble, good guy. He's trying to get back to his wife, played by Jenna Elfman, June, and is really kind of going through the motions, so to speak, of like what is going on here. So he's still trying to have that still police officer mentality that he had pre-zombie apocalypse.
Right.
But obviously it becomes more tough and to deal with, obviously, with everything going on. And with Virginia, obviously, running the Pioneers and really kind of manipulating the situations that they're in, he's really kind of being pushed into a lot of different directions he's not used to. He does open up the episode, though. He's reading a letter that June wrote him. And they are emphasizing about a toothache he has. So he has cavities because he apparently has a sweet tooth. I didn't really pick up on this, but I'm wondering if that has something to lie into as the series is going to go on. But as they go through his daily motions, they're going through the town, he does check in on a fellow ranger, Cameron, who doesn't show up for his shift. Now, John decides to go investigate. And when he goes to Cameron's house, he finds him tangled in barbed wire, getting eaten by 2 walkers. Now, this is very uncharacteristic from Cameron, so John is using his police work to go find out what's going on, because Virginia is just trying to play this off like, okay, nothing happened. He was drinking. He wound up falling into the barbed wire. It's kind of a little wild scenario that she's just basically saying, this is nothing. Go back about your business. We don't want to scare everybody in town. Because it is pretty horrific. And I will say, once again, the horror element they're adding to the show is sorely missing from the main flagship show. Fear is really amping it up this season.
Sure. And I think part of that might just be because there's not any real pressure on Fear.
No, they're playing with house money.
It's a spin-off show with really nothing to build off of, other than just, hey, it's Walking Dead, it's zombies. Whereas with the Walking Dead, while yes, things have changed, we've said before, we'll say it again, there's still at least kind of those flagpoles, those mile markers that they have to hit, that like, okay, going along, fighting the governor. Yeah, there's some death changes. Some folks are still alive that weren't, but you knew that like, okay, we're past the mile marker of the governor dying. Eventually we got to get to Negan. So like that's kind of the pressure with Walking Dead is, they got to hit these points and they got to get to those points. Whereas with Fear, what do you feel like doing? What do we want to do?
Yeah. And I think that really helps them too, because every episode this season, they've really taken the time to focus on some characters. And for me, coming back to the show, I like it because I get more involved with them. Mm-hmm. Because now it's like, okay, I can kind of focus a little more and really remember, okay, did I really like this character? Did I not? And why? Mm-hmm. And they're taking the time to really develop their point of views, which I think for John, who he kind of came in under the radar, and honestly, I didn't really think he was that fascinating of a character.
Right.
He's really developed himself into like a redeeming story, it feels like. Mm-hmm. That now obviously he's trying to do the investigation of what happened to Cameron, and he finds an earring at the scene. So he's using his detective work. And the earring apparently belongs to the character of Janice. Mm-hmm. Now, this character I wasn't too familiar with, but apparently she's been on the show before, and she's somebody that has a little connection with Alicia and Strand, and basically is getting set up for this murder is how John is attacking this. Mm-hmm. Because Virginia is quick to say, yep, she's guilty. It was her earring. We found her. Done.
Right.
And it just goes to show of just like the governor aspect that Virginia, who's played by Colby Minfie, is following in suit. Like, she has not taken a lot of time to really, go through the facts, so to speak. That she's being very cold and calculating and really setting her agenda up early, which, like I say, Minifie has been playing her splendidly. And it's such a contrast from her character on The Boys, too.
Really?
So, oh, yeah. The Boys character is the PR rep for for the Seven, and and she does a wonderful job with it. So it's great to see how an actress or actor can really take a role and really make it their own, and then we see them in something else, they really flip it, and you're like, okay, just goes to show how great their acting is. And Minifie has been crushing it in her role here. And how they're going about this is John is going up against the clock because he's trying to find a way to save Janice, because at this stage, you're going to be executed. And there's no rhyme or reason about it. And Janice knows that she can't get out of this. Like, as they're going through the backstory of how Cameron had a connection there, John is just really kind of running out of loose time. And thus, when he's willing to sacrifice himself to free her so she can escape, he doesn't make there in time because he goes to the jail cell and she's not there. And he goes to find out that she's tied to a tree outside, and you can hear there's loud music going on, and she's getting attacked by the walkers that just are dismembering and just going crazy. So when John winds up finding her, he winds up having to put her down to save her. And it's just one of those things that, for as noble as he was trying to be and trying to do the right thing and save her, this was a shock to see the character get killed off. And it was something, like I say, once again, with Fear the Walking Dead, they are bringing back that element of surprise that you haven't seen. And I freaking love this, because what I say about The Walking Dead, when it's the surprise factor and the suspense, that's when they shine. When you hear about, they're doing a Daryl and Carol spinoff.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen to them. They could be surrounded by 1,000 walkers. Guess what? They're going to walk out of there like they're Wolverine and enter X-Men there. It's just when you have those untouchable characters and you can't do anything with them, you really lose the grasp of like, okay, why should I pay attention? This is like a lot of times when I talk to people about Superman.
Sure.
And people are like, oh, well, I can't get into Superman comics. It's like, why?
Not reading the right writers.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. If you have a great writer that can add something to that character to really instill something in it.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah. You can definitely find something to sink your teeth into with a character and go, okay, I can understand why. And that's why I always say, like, for me, when I was preaching about Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, that's the first time I've seen Batman scared.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I haven't seen this in a very, very long time.
And this is a character that's been through some shit.
Exactly. So to flip it to the Walking Dead aspect, when these characters become untouchable because of their popularity or what have you, this is where you have to say, okay, Are we going to take a chance and do something here, or are we not, and just play it safe just to appease the fans?
Yeah.
Because I think if the fans would have been more respectful if you go take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you can only do so much with certain characters.
Right. And I mean, you kind of look at the Game of Thrones method last season notwithstanding, but you look at those early seasons where they were, they had the books were out and they had those to follow. Yeah, they made some changes to the books, but really the only people that griped were like the diehards who read and knew every detail of every book. I will admit, I've read the books myself. It took me 5 years to do it, but I don't remember every single detail about it. Yeah. So yeah, they made changes, but that was really the only people who griped about it was the diehards who knew everything about the book. And as someone who's read The Walking Dead, not every volume multiple times, but I've read a bunch of volumes of multiple times. I'm used to changes from one medium to another medium. Harry Potter is the one I keep going to. They kept making changes to the Harry Potter films, but none of them. There was only one that ever really bothered me, and that was one that should have been in the third movie, but I digress. Mm-hmm. The other changes never really bothered me. I'm like, okay, no, I get it. It's for movie purposes. You got to simplify the story. I'm okay with making changes to a story if it fits the narrative of what you're going for. Yeah. And I feel regular Walking Dead should do that.
Yeah, Walking Dead should definitely do that. The flagship show should do that. The main show should.
Yeah.
Fear is setting the example. You can do it, and you can definitely keep viewers involved. Mm-hmm. I know it's kind of wild because you don't really expect it from the show, but they've definitely taken the chances, and they're definitely doing the slow burn build-up, too. Mm-hmm. Because even with everything going on with the individual characters they've highlighted, like I said, this episode was about John, and obviously, reading the letter from his wife, June. I'm sorry. You definitely have his story is going on, but then you have what's going on with Morgan, which I do love. I mean, anytime you get Lenny James on the show, it's must-watch TV. I mean, there's no question about that. So when you have his story going on, because obviously he was hunted the first episode by Emil, who I'm sad they killed him off so soon because he was a perfect foil for this episode. Like he had the whole Saint of Killers vibe to him of just being the bounty hunter that was on the mission and couldn't be stopped. But Morgan is confronted by some people that are looking for this key. And obviously we've seen them before, that this key that is so well sought after, everybody is willing to do something to go get them. And during this whole thing, Morgan winds up taking one person down by axe point, and the other companion is jumping out to try getting him. Morgan has to go fight him off. And when he does this, he winds up actually axing one person in the stomach.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, like they get really into ruthless. It. Yeah. Well, Morgan is not playing around. Like he's back to vengeful Morgan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he is not messing around when he's getting attacked.
I would say Morgan when Rick met up with him after the first episode.
Yeah, I want to say Clear Morgan.
Yeah.
Like that episode Clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back to that kind of level. I mean, he's not like so suicidal mission, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's definitely like, okay, if you're attacking me, I'm taking everybody down. And then when he winds up stabbing the other man with his weapon there as well, he's now noticing that the key is what everybody's after. And he doesn't know what this is because obviously he took this from Emil way back when he originally took the first victim down at the beginning of the season premiere. So there is a storyline they're building up now. I don't know where they're going with this key thing.
Okay.
I am excited to find out because I'm entrenched by this.
Sure.
Because anytime they're doing a slow burn mystery, and I guarantee you it's going to tie into Virginia. It just has to.
Could be.
This is where everything is going to tie in together, and it's going to be such a great payoff that I know that we're only slated for 8 episodes, I believe, this second season. Or the 6th season, rather.
Let me check.
But
8 episodes, yeah.
They're tying so much stuff together that you're not left hanging too much, and I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
That, if they're going to do like a split season and come back later in 2021, obviously, I'm all right with this. I'm not going to be mad because they've done enough to really set the tone for Morgan and when he gets everybody back together since they've all been separated.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, and they do have 8 episodes scheduled there. The last episode they have listed there is scheduled to air on the 29th of November of this year. And then in the little blurb they have for the production category under filming and writing, it does say production began in November 2019 in Texas. In March 2020, production for the 6th season was shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to the shutdown, the series series had almost completed the production on the first half of the season, and showrunner Andrew Chambliss confirmed that every script for the 6th season was completed. Production was reported to have restarted in late August 2020. So it sounds like there's going to be more episodes.
It would make sense, because if they really tie this up super quick, I don't know exactly. I think it would pay off, but I'm just wondering, like, if they can drag it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
If they can really build some steam to it. Because I'm expecting the final episode of the first half of the season is going to have a big cliffhanger.
I would imagine, and even just the fact that, like, okay, I'm looking at future episodes, all but that last episode has a title.
Yeah.
They're deliberately not putting out what that episode's title is yet. And it's in, like, 3 weeks.
Because the major problem is they have to reunite the entire group back together of Morgan's team. So I think they're all going to come back for that final episode, and I think that's where you have him face off with Virginia. Now, whatever happens after that, I don't know. But I'm locked in for this. I did not think I was going to be this captivated by it, but I'm here. Like, I cannot say anything bad about this season thus far. Like, Fear is the show I've been waiting to see, and you know what? It pays off every week.
Yeah.
This one, like I say, kind of a little deterrent because I was not too connected with Janice.
Sure.
So, thus, when she got killed off, it's like, okay. But talking with some other fans online, they were like, yo, this is a big deal, and this is another major character who got killed. And I was like, okay. Well, this is what I like to see. I was just more thinking it was a better way to pay off the story because The Walking Dead, you just don't get happy endings.
No.
And so to see, like, if he escaped and actually sacrificed himself to free her, I just think this plays into Virginia's character and makes you hate her more.
Probably.
So I'm okay with this. And whatever's going on with Morgan is very interesting because whatever this mighty key has, I don't know what it's going to unlock. Maybe you'll find Rick Grimes.
Maybe.
You know, in wherever he's locked in, you know, in whatever part of that whole group is.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I did not catch World Beyond this week.
Okay.
Sorry, I had other stuff going on. Plus, that show, like, it's been okay, and I got to catch up on it, but it was like, I just couldn't get that super locked into it this week. But I will tell you this, Fear is worth the watch. Definitely hit me up on #ODPH. If you have not been watching this, I recommend you start, and if you have been watching this, let's interact and let's talk about this, shall we? Because the season's been on point thus far. 4 more episodes to go for the first half. Here we are. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, this is Mark, the DM for Stranger Damies. What is Stranger Damies, you ask? Well, we're just a bunch of first-time D&D players exploring the world of Tal'Dorei 30 years after the events of the Coma Conclave, which was made famous on Critical Role. Join us every week as we roll some dice, make some mistakes, but most importantly, we have fun. New episodes air every Wednesday at strangerdamies.podbean.com or on your favorite podcast streaming app. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Stranger Damies. And is it Wednesday yet?
Hi, this is Tyler from Second Suitor, and you're listening to the ODPH podcast. I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I want to be. I just want to get it. I just want to comprehend that I have to make amends with the monster.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pat, kicks off those one-shots.
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is an unfortunate remembrance because this past weekend it was announced via the official James Bond Twitter account that the late, great Sean Connery had passed away at the age of 90 years old. Although I will say, if there's a way to go, it's the way he went. He was in the Bahamas, surrounded by as much family that could get there because of pandemic, in his sleep. So if there's a way to go, that's probably it. The Twitter account did post they released a statement from Daniel Craig, who is, of course, the current James Bond, said, quote, "It is with such great sadness that I heard of the passing of one of the true greats of cinema." And then the folks over who run the Sir Roger Moore Legacy account, because Sir Roger Moore did have a Twitter account, he has, of course, since passed, presumably his family, I want to say, run this. I'm not quite sure. They did say, however, infinitely sad to hear the news Sir Sean Connery has passed away. He and Roger were friends for many decades, and Roger always maintained Sean was the best ever James Bond. Rest in peace. The whole bunch of people, put out statements. Pierce Brosnan wrote on Instagram, Sir Sean Connery, you were my greatest James Bond as a boy, and as a man who became James Bond himself, you cast a long shadow of cinematic splendor that will live on forever. You led the way for us all who followed in your iconic footsteps. George Lucas, who worked with Connery on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, put out a statement saying Sir Sean Connery, through his talent and drive, left an indelible mark in cinematic history. His audiences span generations, each with favorite roles he played. He will always hold a special place in my heart as Indy's dad, with an air of intelligent authority and sly sense of comedic mischief. Only someone like Sean Connery could render Indiana Jones immediately into boyish regret or relief through a stern fatherly chiding or rejoiceful hug. I'm thankful for having had the good fortune to have known and worked with him. My thoughts are with his family. So a whole bunch of people chimed in on it, and most notably Harrison Ford chimed in just the other day about it and said, quote, he was my father, not in life, but in Indy 3. You don't know pleasure until someone pays you to take Sean Connery for a ride in the sidecar of a Russian motorcycle, bouncing along a bumpy, twisty mountain trail and getting to watch him squirm. God, we had fun. If he's in heaven, I hope they have golf courses. Rest in peace, dear friend. So definitely thoughts and well wishes to his family there. Such an iconic, actor, played in movies such as, his last film, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in 2003. Not an awesome movie, but it's a pretty good movie, all things considered. It was in movies such as The Hunt for Red October, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like I mentioned, The Man Who Would Be King, Murder on the Orient Express, the 1974 version, and then Bond, obviously known as James Bond. He was in films such as Diamonds Are Forever, You Only Live Twice, Thunderball, arguably one of the greatest of all time, Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, and Dr. No.
One of the most legendary actors of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, to say he's just James Bond is an understatement. I mean, he was just iconic in everything he did. And obviously our condolences to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. I mean, just a legend of cinema.
Yeah.
I mean, enough said there.
Yeah.
I always say he's arguably the best James Bond.
Yeah, no, yeah. I love, Daniel Craig, and I love kind of the modern take they've had on it and kind of the spin they've put on that, but there's just something about Connery and just the coolness he brings and kind of how suave he is and just the one-liners.
Yeah.
I mean, the one, I forget which film it is, but he's fighting a guy, he pushes him into the bathtub, and then he tosses a small fan, the oscillating fan, into the bathtub that electrocutes the guy. And he picks up his gun holster, puts it back on, and he just looks back at him and goes, shocking.
Yeah, it's
the one-liners. You can find compilations on YouTube of it. It's just so good.
The definition of cool, man. And obviously, he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah. Moving on to some slightly happier news. This one came out just today. Ron Howard was on a podcast, specifically the Lights, Camera, Barstool podcast, and spoke a little bit about Solo 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he said, so they asked him, whether there would be, we could expect a Solo 2 because there is that movement online. People would, myself included, would like to see a sequel to it. I believe the actors and actresses were all signed to at least 3 films. To do it. So, there's definite interest. And then he was asked about it on the Lights, Camera, Barstool podcast, and he said, quote, no rumblings, though, and this is not a spoiler or anything, but I think there is an interest in those characters. I think there's interest in the gangster world somewhere down the line. But I can assure you there is nothing being developed right now for a movie or Disney+. But one thing is there has been a lot of affection shown for Solo, and so, of course, that keeps boding well for them to eventually turn it around, close quote. And that's the thing you always hear a lot of times. I know, one of the things Greg Weisman, producer of a lot of animated shows, people, myself included, would like to see come back is Gargoyles.
Yeah.
And the thing he always keeps saying is keep talking about it, keep posting hashtags about it, keep watching it, because they see those numbers and they see those hashtags and they see the metrics, and if there's enough interest in it, they'll go, all right, let's do it.
That's the one thing that I always try telling fans is, like, if you miss something, like a show or characters, keep putting it out to the universe, because studios, actors, actresses, production crews
Yeah.
read those hashtags.
Oh yeah.
So trust me, if there's enough buzz to show some interest, somebody will pick it up if the voice is loud enough. I mean, I always refer to the Save Daredevil movement. And I know that this week there's supposed to be a social media event going on.
I believe it.
For that, because obviously we know November is when the rights are returning from Netflix to Marvel.
Yep.
Fingers crossed everything lines up. But it's by those movements that you're telling Marvel, hey, we love this show. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do another show with these characters, you need to cast the same people. You need to do it exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Making your voice heard is the way to do this.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
More power to it.
Moving on to some announcements. The Walking Dead is getting their main show is getting ready to introduce the woman behind Negan's famous bat.
Oh,
that being Lucille. We're finally going to get to meet Lucille, which I don't think we ever met her in the comics.
They did the Here's Negan book.
That's true. And the actress getting cast to portray her is someone very, very well known to Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Who is it, you might ask?
Yeah,
his wife. Hillary Burton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's been cast.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, she's been cast to portray Negan's wife, Lucille. This is going to be in a guest starring role for the bonus episodes of season 10. This is according to Entertainment Weekly. She tweeted on her Twitter account the other day, quote, "Been pretty hard to keep this a secret, but I love working with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I love watching him become Negan and take on that swagger, and I love the Walking Dead family. They've been part of our family for ages, and I'm so grateful for their kindness," close quote.
Love the casting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm down for this. I mean, obviously, Negan's story, like I say, I believe it's Here's Negan. It was the limited series they did, and they broke down like who he was before because he was the used car salesman.
Right.
It's a great story. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to watch this when I have it on
absolutely.
screen.
And the chemistry they're going to have on screen is going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be on point.
Awesome. Switching over to some Marvel/DC news. James Gunn did an interview with Empire, and there's somebody on the Marvel side of things that knows absolutely every single thing about his upcoming Suicide Squad movie. That would be one Kevin Feige.
Oh.
Yeah, so James Gunn told Empire that he had to tell Feige exactly why he couldn't jump right back on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was after him being rehired for the project. He told Feige that he was working on a DC movie, to which Feige asked, "Is it Superman?" And Gunn said that, I could have worked on that character, but it wasn't the one I chose. And this, according to the article from IGN. After telling Feige that it was a new Suicide Squad movie, Feige replied, please make a good movie. Just make a great movie. So he went on to say that he told Feige all about the Suicide Squad's characters, including who the villain is, which nobody knows who that is other than the cast and crew. He said, quote, "Kevin knew who all those characters were for months before we revealed them at Fandom. He still knows who the villain is. I think he's pretty trustworthy with his NDA." I'd say he's pretty good with
I would say he's on point with that.
Not putting anything out. Gunn went on to say that the conversations with Disney were, quote, "scary, especially since Marvel missed Gunn by only one day, and it was their rival DC who hired Gunn first," saying, quote, "It was a happy ending, but it was also scary because I actually got the call from Walt Disney Studios CCO Alan Horn long before it was announced. It happened literally the day after I agreed to do the Suicide Squad." Kevin Feige apparently knows the entire plot of Suicide Squad.
And, that's cool. They just said make a great movie. So there's no bitterness. There's no rivalry with this.
No.
Obviously, they're mending a lot of fences from what happened originally.
Yeah.
So I'm all for this. And obviously, Gunn will do a great job with Suicide Squad. The buzz about it's been pretty good. I'm just curious of what we're going to get from this film.
It's going to be absolutely batshit crazy because I know the one thing Gunn has said when he went to go do this movie, he asked the powers that be, are there any restrictions? Is there anything I can't do with certain characters? Because he's used to that.
Yeah.
From the Marvel side of things, we're like, okay, you can't do anything, Guardians of the Galaxy, all right, you can't do anything with the main cast. You can't kill any of them off. Everybody else is fair game. So he's used to that. But no, the folks at Warner Brothers told him, nah, do whatever you want. Kill whoever you want. You open palette.
I think the only one safe is Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
I think
and Peacemaker, John Cena.
Allegedly, though, we don't know if that's a prequel that they're doing for the HBO Max show.
True.
That's what I'd say. Like,
it's a good point.
He picked a lot of D-list heroes, if you can call them heroes for this.
Yeah.
That, with the exception of who we've seen in the previous film, I mean, Captain Boomerang, Rick Flag, Amanda Waller.
Yep.
So everybody else is pretty much expendable, which I'm not doubting Gunn kills everybody.
Probably.
Which I'm okay with because it's a Suicide Squad. Nobody should come out of this unscathed.
or without missing a limb or two.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we got some announcements for when the Arrowverse is going to be coming back. Obviously, they would be airing normally. Had the world not gone to absolute what with the pandemic and everything, but with the pandemic, they had not been able to start filming. But the CW has revealed premiere dates for the winter 2021 lineup, and that includes the Arrowverse. So they're doing a bit of an interesting, rollout with this. It's not like in years past where it's been like everything at once or like one every week. They're kind of spreading it out, and I like that.
Yeah.
They're starting off with Batwoman. She will be the first to return with season 2 premiering on Sunday, January 17th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So then the next one up will be the season 4 premiere of Black Lightning. That will debut on Monday, February 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then after that, it will be season 7 of The Flash, and then season 1 of Superman and Lois. Those will premiere on Tuesday, February 23rd at 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. respectively. Now, if you're ticking off your fingers on your hand going, all right, wait, we're missing 2. Don't worry. Supergirl season 6 and DC's Legends of Tomorrow season 6 aren't included with this lineup, so that kind of lends people to believe once you hit mid-season breaks, like they did with last year, they're going to fill in the gaps.
And that's fine to do.
Yeah.
I don't struggle with that.
Yeah.
Especially Supergirl's last season. I think they want to take their time with it and really make sure they send her off right.
Yeah.
So for my one-shots, there was a trailer that dropped for a show that we talked about during New York Comic Con that I'm catching up on this now, and I'm going to give it a shot. Like, I'm going to give the first episode anyway.
Okay.
And that is Alex Rider. Now, this is on IMDb TV. So it's a story about Alex Rider, who apparently is a teenager that's been subconsciously trained to be a secret agent in the world of espionage. So they're showing a little footage of him going to like a boarding school, and you're seeing basically what James Bond Jr. would be.
Okay.
So that's kind of the vibe I get from this. It looks intriguing. And I will say with the panel, they were very excited about this. It's coming to IMDb TV. Say that 3 times fast. In November, next week on the 13th. So it's going to be something worth checking out. So I'm going to give it a shot and see. So like I said, the first trailer, it definitely jumped around. It had like a young James Bond feel. And that's the easiest way to describe it. And definitely want to kind of dig into it and see what's going on with it. I mean, I'm behind on some shows, though, so that's the thing I got to catch up on. Truth Seekers just came out on Amazon, too, and I really, really want to catch up on that.
Yeah.
I got tied up with some other stuff. And Hellstrom came out on Hulu, which shout out to JT from the East Coast Avengers. He said it was actually really good.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I got to give this a shot. Definitely so much is starting to build up, coming into the end of 2020 to watch. But, I also kind of want to rewatch The Boys because it was so freaking good. And going to the comic shops, though, crazy week for Marvel a little bit. Obviously, X of Swords is still going strong. X-Men 14 is coming out because I'm showing Pad the cover right now.
Oh, my.
And it's just Apocalypse with a very, very big sword ready to go do some damage. Also is Avengers 38, which obviously that has been a freaking wild run going on right now. So that is pretty much the books that are leading me for Marvel right now going into. And they also have Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood.
Yep.
So that one, if you like that kind of anthology style, it's going to be up your alley. It's going to be absolutely crazy to go on with. And also Amazing Spider-Man 51, too.
Amazing Spider-Man 51, Thor number 9 from Donny Cates. Thor and Donny Cates, enough said.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars issue number 8, Star Wars and Charles Soule, enough said.
Yeah. And to flip it to the DC side, Batman 102.
Yeah.
Tynan's run post-Joker War. Like, here we go. The new stat quo is being built for that universe, which, I mean, like I said, Joker War did not disappoint.
No.
And to see where they go from here. And then also Tales from the Dark Multiverse Batman Hush number 1.
Yeah, the cover of this is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it looks freaking phenomenal.
So the description of this on DCComics.com reads, following the smash success of last year's Tales from the Dark Multiverse series, DC returns with 5 new tales that explore dark, twisted timelines spinning out of some of DC's most iconic stories. It begins with the story that kicked off the modern era for Batman, Hush. The landmark story introduced Bruce Wayne's childhood friend, Tommy Elliott, as he tried to destroy the Dark Knight. But what if Tommy had ruined Bruce's life when they were children? Tommy Elliott grew up to be the Dark Prince of Gotham City with the help of Talia al Ghul, Oswald Cobblepot, Harvey Dent, and Jason Todd. But vengeance is coming in the form of Batman the Silenced, who will tear Tommy's life apart. Written by rising star Philip Kennedy Johnson from The Last God, with jaw-dropping artwork by Dexter Soy from Batman and the Outsiders.
Yeah, that looks absolutely crazy.
The cover alone is worth your purchase.
Yeah, no, that's what I say. Like, I'm watching this cover or reading this cover. I'm like, this looks fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So much good stuff coming out, too. And I definitely want to plug again Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin.
Okay.
Freaking phenomenal. I got a chance to really sit down and do a deep dive read on it. Absolutely worth the time. If you are a fan of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
Not the ones you really see on the movies and in the cartoons, but I'm saying the old school comics. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird are getting back together for this, and this is a dark, brooding read. It's a fantastic job that IDW Publishing did for this, and it does not disappoint. This has like just so much grit to it that you'll definitely be captivated by it, and I can't recommend it enough. Definitely got to give a shout out to Cheers to Comics about this, because I know Brian's been raving about this as well, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more about that, head over to your local comic shops and go show some support to them, and definitely check out some great fellow comic podcasts such as Cheers to Comics, When Did They Pull This, East Coast Adventures. I mean, all our friends here on the independent podcast community, because we are all talking about this book right now. So this is definitely worth your time to go pick up and hit to your shops and go get some reads. So that all being said, the music you heard on this episode is that of Shout at the Robots. Now, they are great friends of ours. They just opened up a Patreon pad.
Oh, boy.
And they have merchandise coming out left and right. They are really cranking that out. So if you are looking to get involved with more Shout at the Robots, and you should because they're amazing people, head on over to ochodoroparlayhour.com and hit the music section where you can find out about them. Brian Wolf, who's doing Patreon Wednesdays on Facebook.
Okay.
So he's doing a little live introduction for that. A lot of our fellow musician friends are doing Patreon these days.
Good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during this time period, this is one way to really connect with your fans, and they're definitely making it worth your while, too.
Yeah.
And you can check out all the great music you hear on the ODPH from all the bands there. You can head over to the directory where you can check out friends of the show. You can check out organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter and all the amazing pod groups that we're in via their Podchaser pages. Shout out to Pod Nation. Shout out to Legion Independent Podcast. Shout out to Alternate Reality Radio. Shout out to the aPODalypse. And, of course, shout out to hashtag 607 Podcast, where you can find out everything going on with our friends over at 8122 Productions at their webpage and at their Patreon, patreon.com/8122 Productions. All that and so much more at ochodoroparlayhour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
161 days, still no HBO Max app on Roku or Amazon Fire TV.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, gives you those stats like Padawan J.
And one thing before we go, there's some rumors floating around about WandaVision and some certain characters that might make an appearance. I've got it from some sources that those rumors are true.
The plug has struck again. Ooh, you got to hit me with that before I got to do the outro? Between that and Boba Fett, man, it's a great episode. I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.